Alright, we are on to the next list. And I think I'm going to talk about the Sorcerer Supremes. And I think first up I will start with Marvel's Sorcerer Supreme. And no, it's not going to be Dr. Voodoo. I'm going to refer to him as Brother Voodoo. And yes, I will do a lesser known video on him. But I will reference him being Dr. Voodoo, but I'll always kind of know him as Brother Voodoo. But that's beside the point. Go with the guy who actually trained him, and who also shares the same first name as me. Dr. Stephen Strange. Marvel's Sorcerer Supreme. Now, to give you the background on Doctor Strange, because he is one that people have asked me to at least talk about, or one that I felt kind of had to be gotten out of the way. To basically give you anybody who hasn't seen the animated movie, it's a very loose adaptation of his origins and adds stuff that was never really talked about, but was still nice for what it was. Oh, excuse me. Now, Doctor Strange was a character who, he was a very successful surgeon, he had lots of money, but he tended to gamble a lot. He was an alcoholic, and he was basically a guy who was more concerned with how much wealth he had and how many material objects he had, as opposed to caring for his patients and basically trying to be a successful surgeon. And even then, when clients started suing him for malpractice, his business kind of started to go down. He started racking up debts. He basically was not making enough money to pay for his Beverly Hills mansion and all that stuff. Very ideal, meticulous kind of character. You know, the selfish and greedy kind of character. Well, one day, or rather one night I should say, because that takes place at night, he was loaded, went into his fancy sports car, and basically got into an accident. He had drove off of a cliff. And he was heavily injured, but it destroyed his medical career because he ended up basically damaging vital nerves in his hands, and he couldn't even hold a scalpel straight. So he lost his business, lost his medical practice. He could never practice and do surgery again. He had to basically, sell all of his... He tried every single method possible to basically reverse the damage done to his hands. And he ended up selling the last of his objects to go to Tibet to find this ancient shaman called the Ancient One, who supposedly could miraculously do anything. And he ends up finding the Ancient One, and he asks him to help heal his hands, and he said, "I cannot heal your hands." And Strange just basically, he's shot down. He couldn't believe that this old man, told him that he couldn't heal his hands. And he's like, look, I've sold everything that I've ever owned. I damn well made the trip. You are going to find some way to heal my hands. And the Ancient One basically just sits him down, and Strange is boggled by this. And Baron Mordo basically is about to throw him out using black magic. And the Ancient One told him, he goes, look, if you can tame your temper, I'll let you stay here. Because, I don't think that's fair that you made this trip all the way down here to see me, and then, blah, blah, blah. I'm carrying on and rambling on too much here. But basically, Strange ends up finding out that the Ancient One is a sorcerer, and he's like, well, and he basically, once he's calmed down and is of rational thought, he basically asks the Ancient One out of curiosity. He's like, hey, can you teach me, the arcane arts? I have nothing And so I said, I have nothing, and I have nothing pretty much to live for, basically. Oh no, wait, no, I'm sorry. I have to kind of recant that statement because it's been a long time since I've read Doctor Strange in a while. No, what happened is that he discovered that Baron Mordo, the Ancient One's apprentice, was planning on killing the Ancient One, and when he was discovered, he bolted Strange's mouth shut, and the Ancient One dispelled, the mouth shutting deal. But he also told Strange as well, he's like, look, I already know that Mordo is going to turn against me. And what I want you to do is that I'm going to train you in the arcane arts to battle him. And Strange ends up training, he learns the arcane arts and all that. And he beats Mordo, and then Mordo is banished, and he vows revenge. And after extensive amounts of training, the Ancient One sends him away from Tibet, back to the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York City. And he's been deemed the Sorcerer Supreme, and he is given many arcanic artifacts. He is given the Cloak of Levitation, which is the cape that you see him wear. And it serves as like a second pair of hands, and it allows him to fly and float and stuff. He is given the Wand of Watum, which is a very, very powerful arcane artifact. Nobody really knows exactly what the wand can be used for. Supposedly it's able to open like dimensions within time and space. But the most key thing that everybody knows Doctor Strange for, at least most of them that know him anyway, is the Orb of Agamotto, or Agamotto, however you pronounce it. I can never get it right. But this is kind of an all-seeing eye kind of object, because it not only enhances Doctor Strange's arcane powers, but it can also instantly dispel even the strongest of arcane magic. It's almost kind of like, an eye of truth, if you will. Doctor Strange can tell if somebody's lying or if they're possessed by a demon. It's a very, very powerful object in his possession. And Doctor Strange, basically as the Sorcerer Supreme, the Sanctum Sanctorum is basically a gateway to the multiple, demonic dimensions. And Doctor Strange has faced Mephisto, he has faced Dormammu, he has faced Nightmare, he has faced many demonic entities. And he is also the leader of, the Defenders, the non-quote-unquote team-up superhero group, along with the Hulk and Submariner and a few others. And he became part of the New Avengers, and as I briefly mentioned a while ago, he trained Brother Voodoo to be the new Sorcerer Supreme. And pretty much they're not really using Doctor Strange very much. He's part of, Steve Rogers' Secret Avengers government op, kind of group as like their occult or magic, expert, but they're not really doing much with Strange. They've kind of really dumbed him down a little bit in the comics. But yeah, that's pretty much Doctor Strange. That's very interesting character, and a very powerful character that I think kind of does get overlooked, but most people know who he is. Now on to Dr. Fate, DC's version of Dr.